My name is Scarlett. Growing up without my father wasn't a significant loss for me because my mother filled my world with her immense strength and dedication. She worked tirelessly to ensure we had enough to eat and a place to call home. From a young age, I helped out with chores at home, doing dishes, laundry, and anything that was needed. My mother always emphasized the importance of self-reliance, telling me, "Bella, you have to learn to take care of yourself because the world won't." Our apartment was small, but it felt like a true home, especially with the constant hum of my mom's old sewing machine as she worked late into the night, repairing clothes to make some extra money. This sound was the comforting backdrop of my childhood. What captured my interest, though, was computers. This fascination began when my school received a donation of old PCs. While most kids use them for playing games, I was intrigued by their inner workings. I spent hours after school exploring and learning about them. One day, Mr. Hudson, our IT teacher, caught me installing video editing software. I thought I was in trouble, but instead, he offered to teach me. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he showed me the ropes of video editing, and I practiced on our old computer at home. As high school ended, the reality that college was out of reach hit me. Undeterred, I applied for a job at WKP, our local TV station, right after graduation. Despite the initial skepticism from a receptionist, I managed to secure 3 interviews and a practical test, eventually landing a job as an assistant video editor. The pay wasn't much, but it was a start. For the next 3 years, I dedicated myself to working during the week and freelancing on weekends, saving every penny for my college fund. During a rare night out with my friends Abigail and Benjamin, everything changed. At a house party, I met Jasper. He might not have been typically handsome, but there was something about him, especially when he talked about his software development job, that caught my attention. As the night ended, he asked for my number. After a moment's hesitation, I gave it to him. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Dating Jasper was refreshing and new. One evening, walking home from a movie, he proposed, and I accepted. Our wedding was modest but lovely, filled with joy from both our families. Jasper's parents, Lucy and Colton, were incredibly welcoming despite their wealth, which eased my nerves. The first 3 years of our marriage were mostly happy. We had our cozy apartment near the TV station where I continued to work, while Jasper was employed at a prominent tech firm. We enjoyed frequent weekend trips around the country, a luxury I never experienced as a child. I cherished every moment of our weekend adventures. Exploring new places and savoring new flavors felt like stepping into an expansive new world. However, a subtle shift began to overshadow our shared happiness. It started with small, seemingly insignificant reactions from Jasper. He would sigh heavily when I discussed my day at work or dismissively roll his eyes when I shared my excitement over a new editing technique I had mastered. The first time Jasper made an excuse to avoid taking me to a work party, I didn't think much of it. "It's just a boring office thing. You wouldn't enjoy it," he explained. But then, it became a pattern. One evening, I accidentally overheard him on the phone with a coworker. "Yeah, just me tonight. You know how it is. Bella isn't really into these kinds of events." I was stunned. Not into these events? He had never even given me a chance to be. That night, I confronted him. "Jasper, why don't you want me to come to your work events anymore? Are you ashamed of me?" His response was evasive. "No, it's not that. It's just sometimes it's hard for you to keep up with the conversations. I don't want you to feel out of place." His words stung deeply, but they also sparked a determination within me. Perhaps he was right. Maybe I did need to elevate my skills. Resolved, I enrolled in night classes at the local community college, studying information technology. Juggling work, school, and my relationship was challenging, but I was committed to improving myself. Despite my efforts, the distance between Jasper and me grew. His initially cold demeanor escalated into outright contempt. Then one fateful night, everything came to a head. I returned home late from a class, exhilarated by having aced a test. Jasper was waiting, whiskey in hand, his mood sour. "Where have you been?" he demanded sharply. "Class, remember? I told you I had a big test tonight." His reply cut deep. "You're a fool and a hillbilly, Bella, and no amount of schooling is going to change that." The words hit like a physical blow. Before I could react, I heard a gasp from the doorway. Jasper's parents, Lucy and Colton, stood there, horror etched across their faces. Lucy stepped forward, her eyes ablaze with anger. "How dare you talk to your wife like that, Jasper? We raised you better than this." But Jasper was defiant. "You don't understand," he retorted, his voice rising. "Do you know how embarrassing it is to have a wife who can't keep up with basic conversations at work events?" I flinched, but Colton's response silenced the room. "Embarrassing? Let me tell you about embarrassing, boy. Your grandfather, my father, didn't have a lick of formal education. He was born in the poorest part of town and worked his fingers to the bone to give me a better life. So don't you dare sit there and act like you're some kind of aristocrats." I felt a surge of gratitude towards my in-laws, but Jasper's next words chilled the air. "I'll behave how I see fit," he spat. "This is my life, my marriage." After his parents left, Jasper began to withdraw even further, taking weekend trips with friends, never bothering to include me. In response, I threw myself even more into my work and studies, taking extra weekend gigs to fill the void. The growing gap between us was palpable. Yet through it all, my resolve only strengthened. I was determined to not only succeed but to thrive, regardless of the challenges. My mother was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, and within a few months, she passed away. Her death left me feeling lost and unmoored, deprived of the person who had been my pillar of strength all my life. Throughout this time, Jasper's presence was minimal and his attempts at comfort felt clumsy, mere pats on the back that did little to ease my sorrow. In my grief, I increasingly found solace in Lucy, Jasper's mother. She would often call to check on me, invite me over for tea, and spend hours just listening to me. Her warmth provided the maternal comfort I so desperately needed, but it seemed to only deepen Jasper's irritation. One evening, after I had spent the afternoon with his parents, Jasper confronted me angrily. "Why are you always over there?" he yelled. "Are you trying to turn my parents against me?" His accusation left me stunned. "No, Jasper, I needed someone to talk to," I replied, hurt by his words. That night, I cried myself to sleep, confused about how our relationship had deteriorated to this point. A few weeks later, I started to feel unusually tired and nauseous in the mornings. Initially, I attributed it to stress and grief, but as these symptoms persisted, I suspected something else. With a pounding heart, I bought a pregnancy test on my way home from work. The positive result, those two distinct lines, stirred a whirlwind of joy and fear within me. We were going to have a baby. That evening, I anxiously awaited Jasper's return. When he finally arrived, I gathered my courage. "Jasper, we need to talk. I'm pregnant." His reaction was far from what I had hoped. Instead of joy or surprise, he responded with fury. "Pregnant?" he spat. "Are you kidding me? We can't have a baby now. Get an abortion, Bella. That's final." I fled from our apartment, tears streaming down my face, and found myself instinctively heading to Lucy and Colton's doorstep. When Lucy saw my tear-streaked face, she immediately enveloped me in a hug. Through sobs, I explained everything, the pregnancy and Jasper's harsh reaction. The anger in Colton's eyes and Lucy's resolute determination were palpable. "Listen to me, Scarlett," Lucy said firmly, cradling my face in her hands. "This is your decision. If you want this baby, we'll support you every step of the way." Jasper be damned. The following months were a blur of doctor's appointments, work, and escalating tension at home. Jasper barely spoke to me, choosing instead to spend most of his time out with friends. I threw myself into my work, saving every extra penny for the baby. One afternoon, after a routine doctor's appointment, I returned home earlier than usual and was surprised to see Jasper's car in the parking lot. Curious and confused, I headed up to our apartment. As I unlocked the door, I heard Jasper's voice. "I'll be there in a minute, babe," just grabbing my overnight bag. My heart sank. I stepped inside to find him packing a suitcase. "Who are you talking to? Where are you going?" Before he could reply, a car horn honked outside. Frustrated, Jasper grabbed his bag and muttered, "I don't have time for this. We'll talk when I get back." I followed him downstairs to the parking lot, demanding answers. That's when I saw her, a woman sitting in the passenger seat of Jasper's car, stunning with long blonde hair and impeccable makeup, and visibly pregnant. As I stood there, frozen in shock, she stepped out of the car with a smug smile on her face. At the expected meeting, the woman introduced herself with a syrupy tone. "You must be Scarlett," her voice laced with insincerity. "I'm Ariana, Jasper's girlfriend." I glanced at Jasper, who avoided my gaze, my voice barely above a whisper. I asked, "Is this true?" He confirmed with a nod, still not facing me. A wave of anger and betrayal swept over me. "Aren't you ashamed?" I demanded of Ariana, my voice trembling. "He's married. We're expecting a child." Ariana's smile grew icy. "Ashamed? No, dear. I fought for my happiness. You've already lost him. It's not my fault you couldn't keep him." I turned to Jasper, my initial shock morphing into fury. "How could you betray us, me, and our unborn child?" Finally, he met my gaze, his expression indifferent. "Bella, let's face it, our marriage was a mistake. I never loved you. You were convenient, a good housekeeper, someone to warm the bed. But Ariana, she's my soulmate. She's educated, sophisticated, a perfect match for my world." Each word cut deep, leaving me in tears. Jasper left with Ariana, stating he would return on Monday to collect his things and discuss the divorce. As they drove off, I collapsed in the parking lot, my world shattered. I called my friend Lucy, who arrived at my apartment that evening. She embraced me tightly as I listened numbly to Colton scolding Jasper over the phone, his words sharp and condemning. Jasper coldly dismissed his father, declaring he didn't need their acceptance as long as he had Ariana. The following months were tumultuous. With Lucy and Colton's support, I found a new apartment near them. The divorce was bitter, but I finally freed myself from Jasper legally. When my daughter Nora was born on a crisp autumn morning, it was Lucy who supported me through labor, with Colton anxiously waiting. Jasper even demanded a paternity test during the child support hearings. The results confirmed Nora was indeed his and the court-mandated support payments, though I knew better than to rely on them. The years that followed brought challenges, but also joy. I earned my degree in information technology and was promoted to senior editor. Lucy and Colton thrived in their roles as grandparents, filling weekends with family activities. Nora grew up intelligent and kind-hearted, resembling her grandparents in spirit and curiosity. Then everything changed once more. Colton was diagnosed with advanced pancreatic cancer, leaving us with limited time. I devoted myself to helping Lucy care for him, balancing work and my daughter's needs. Colton had become more of a father to me than my own ever was, and I was determined to support him in his final days. Determined to support him through his final days, I stood steadfast by Colton's side. Despite our collective efforts, the treatments, and our prayers, Colton passed away 4 months later. At his funeral, I held Lucy close as she wept. The grief was akin to losing my father. I linked hands with Lucy and Nora, forming a small, strong circle. Jasper was conspicuously absent. I hadn't expected him to attend, yet his absence underlined the depth of his estrangement from us. In the weeks following Colton's death, Lucy's health deteriorated rapidly. The loss of her husband seemed to have sapped her very will to continue. She grew increasingly frail and was often lost in long stretches of silence. One sleepless night, as I worried about her declining condition, a plan began to form. By morning, I had decided. I called my boss to arrange a transition to remote work and began packing up our essentials. Nora and I moved into Lucy's house to care for her. Adapting to this new life took patience and adjustment. I hired a nurse to look after Lucy in the mornings, which allowed me to focus on my video editing projects. In the afternoons, it was our time. Nora and I would read to Lucy, assist with her physical therapy, or just share memories of happier times. The days blended into each other, marked by moments of joy and pain. On good days, we found solace in the garden, basking in the sunshine and each other's company. On the difficult days, I held Lucy's hand as she mourned the loss of Colton and, In a way, the son she had lost long before his father's passing. One sunny afternoon, after a walk, Nora and I came home to find a man in a business suit just leaving. My heart skipped a beat in worry, but as we entered, I saw Lucy sitting in her favorite armchair, looking composed but tired. "Everything's fine, dear." That was Mr. Andrew, my lawyer. "Just some legal matters," she reassured me. I nodded, understanding that she would share more if she wished. 2 weeks later, Lucy passed peacefully in her sleep. With trembling hands, I called Jasper to inform him of his mother's passing. His response was cold and detached, showing no intention to attend the funeral, but only inquiring about the will reading. At the funeral, the church was filled to the brim. Lucy had touched many lives, and it showed. As Nora and I stood at the pulpit, I looked out over a sea of faces, friends, neighbors, colleagues, all gathered to honor a woman who had loved fiercely and been loved deeply in return. Jasper's absence was a tangible void, a somber reminder of the rift that had torn the family apart. As I shared memories of Lucy's kindness, her strength, and her unconditional love, a realization dawned on me. Family isn't always bound by blood. Sometimes, it's about the choices we make. Lucy had chosen to love me, to love Nora, even when her son had turned his back on us. As we laid her to rest beside Colton, I silently vowed to live with the same love and grace she had shown, ensuring Nora knew the incredible grandparents she had, even if their time together was brief. A few days after the funeral, Mr. Andrew called to schedule the will reading. "Mrs. Jasper, can you come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m.? I've already contacted Mr. Jasper. He'll be there as well." The chapter was closing, but in many ways, a new one was just beginning. The following morning, I reached the law office feeling incredibly nervous. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside where I saw Jasper and Ariana, both impeccably dressed, casting stern glances in my direction. Ariana scrutinized me with a sneer. The meeting began swiftly as Mr. Andrew, the lawyer, opened an aged folder and started to read. Initially, Jasper seemed disinterested, but his expression shifted to confusion and then to anger as he grasped the implications. "This can't be correct," he exclaimed, demanding a reread. Mr. Andrews sighed and reiterated, "Mr. Jasper, the document is quite clear. Your mother has bequeathed all her assets, including the house, to Scarlett and her daughter, Nora." Jasper turned towards me, fury in his eyes. You tricked my mother, you opportunist. Well, enjoy it while you can, because I'm evicting you today." As they left in a huff, Ariana stopped at the door, her voice venomous. "You may have won today, but this isn't over." I sat bewildered as Mr. Andrew detailed the will's contents. It wasn't just the house. Lucy had left her entire estate, savings and investments, to Nora and me. "She wanted to ensure you both were well cared for," he said kindly. Tears formed in my eyes, realizing Lucy's enduring care. However, Jasper's threats began that night, incessant calls and vows to ruin me. I changed my phone number, but the harassment didn't cease. Men would accost us in the street, issuing obscure threats about debts owed. Nora was petrified, sticking close whenever we ventured outside. During one such encounter, I covertly recorded the confrontation and immediately reported it to the police. The authorities acted swiftly. My evidence, coupled with testimonies from witnesses, enabled them to build a robust case against Jasper. His own hired intimidators testified against him, revealing his instructions to frighten us. I vividly remember Jasper's face when the police handcuffed him. Subsequently, a court issued a restraining order prohibiting him from coming near Nora or me or making any contact. That evening, as I put Nora to bed in what used to be Lucy's room, now adorned with toys and children's books, Nora, half asleep, murmured, "Grandma and Grandpa are watching over us." I kissed her forehead, responding softly, "Yes, they are, and they'd be so proud of you, my brave girl." Life gradually became serene. Nora excelled in school, and I was promoted to the TV station. We were secure thanks to Lucy and Colton's legacy, yet I was resolute in forging our path. One afternoon, as I left work, I encountered Ariana. Gone was the composed demeanor. Her appearance was unkempt, her eyes tearful. "Scarlett, please," she stammered, desperation in her voice. "I need your help." I braced myself, expecting yet another challenge, but Ariana's next words threw me off balance. "Our son is sick. He needs surgery. Please, we need some money. Could we have just half of the inheritance? You don't need all of it, do you?" Her pleas seemed desperate, yet something didn't quite add up. "What exactly is wrong with him?" I asked, my tone wary. Ariana looked around nervously, her story shaky. "It's his heart. No, his kidneys, the doctors say." As she struggled with her explanation, memories of our initial confrontations, her triumphant sneer when she thought they had won, flashed through my mind. A stark realization dawned on me. I responded with composed firmness. "You know, Ariana, someone once advised me to fight for my happiness. It seems you've already conceded defeat in this battle." Her expression shifted instantly. The desperate facade fell away, replaced by raw anger. "You lowlife," she hissed. "You owe us that inheritance. It should have been ours." I stood firm, undeterred. "I owe you nothing. Leave now, or I will call the police." As I walked away, her angry shouts dwindled into the background, and I felt an overwhelming sense of finality. That encounter had cut the last remaining thread to my former life. That night, I made a decisive choice. It was time for a new beginning. I sold Lucy's house and purchased a new home in a different neighborhood, a place where Jasper and Ariana could never find us. Now, as I sit in our new living room watching Nora diligently work on her homework, I'm overwhelmed with a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for Lucy and Colton's unconditional love, for the inner strength I had cultivated, and yes, even for the difficult experiences that had steered me to this moment of peace.